Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. After a dispute over a winning lottery ticket turns into a deadly hostage situation, the witnesses must decide exactly how far they'll go and how much blood they're willing to spill for a cut of the $156 million. This is my raw reaction review of Your Lucky Day. Hey guys, welcome back. And I know what you're thinking. This is a horror channel and we cover horror related things, but every once in a while there's a property out there that just catches our eye and we have to check out and do a review on. And I got to say, Your Lucky Day was certainly one of those films. Being a giant Euphoria fan and a big Angus Cloud fan, and with his untimely passing, I knew I had to try to get my hands on this one. So I was so excited when we were able to obtain a screener for this one because I got to say, after checking out that trailer a few months back, it was just so stylish, really got the blood pumping, a lot of tension built in that trailer. I just really thought this was going to be such an exciting film, and overall I got to say, this one did not disappoint, but let's hop into the actual film itself. This is directed by Dan Brown, which I checked out his filmography. Not a lot there right now, so I think this might be his first big feature. I do know Your Lucky Day is based off of a short that he had done, I think around 2010, which is about 16 minutes, I think, and they expand upon this. It was a long road. Here in 2023, we get a feature finally, which runs about an hour 30, and I gotta say, I think Dan Brown really gets to flex his creativity behind the lens here. Like that trailer was very stylish, had a very particular tone, I think, and it really does hold true throughout the film. I think that's something that's going to catch a lot of people's eye, especially when you're in the convenience store. I mentioned it had that kind of good time feel, that uncut gems. I think it's really shot in that fashion as well. And big props to Dan Brown. I got to say, when you're in the convenience store, I think it does run that risk of where it's very claustrophobic and almost monotonous in a sense, where you're going to be seeing the same scenery over and over. But I think Dan Brown really does take advantage of the entire actual convenience store itself, because there are moments in here where you do get those character moments, and you're kind of sitting with these characters and learning some backstories, and they're in different spots. And I think Dan Brown did a great job of just mixing up the scenery and making it feel different, making it feel bigger than it actually was. And I think there are a lot of great shots in here when you're dealing with this high action, a lot of gunfire. It's hard to capture all of that on film, but I think he did really well. He really does build that tension through the lens, especially during a lot of the shootout scenes. And I think he does make those really memorable. There are a couple in here. Of course, we're not diving into spoilers, but that really get the heart racing, and you're wondering who's going to make it out. And I think sometimes that's really hard to capture through a lens. Sometimes that the intent is there, but it kind of just falls flat. But I will say, this one did have my blood pumping for those moments that it's supposed to, because there are a couple of moments in here where you're kind of just sitting in between those high tension moments of learning these characters' backstories. And I got to say, if I had a negative here, sometimes I think maybe we sit in those moments a little bit too long. I think maybe it's just because we're juxtaposing that with a lot of high tension scenes right before and right after. So you kind of have this these smaller scenes, these slower scenes stuck right in between. But I think you're learning a lot about the characters in those elements of why they're there, why they're making the choices that they're going to be making. So that when we do get farther down the line, everything does seem believable. And I think that's a great element to this actual film. Everything feels organic. It's nothing that seems forced when you do learn the backstories and where these characters are coming from. It makes sense as to why they're making the decisions that they're making. And I think the big talking point here as we walk away from this film is obviously going to be Angus Cloud as Sterling. He is our sort of, I guess you would say, bad character in a sense. He's the reason why all these characters find themselves in this incident. And he wants this lottery ticket, as you can see from the trailer, and he makes a proposition for these characters of saying, we're all in this together. You're free to leave. But if you want to stay and get rich, Rich people don't go to jail. And I think that's a great social commentary to kind of really pack into this film. It's not just this kind of heartless, shoot 'em up kind of film. There is a lot of meaning here. And I think you do empathize with a lot of these characters and where they're coming from. But going into the character of Sterling, I think he is such a big point of this film, obviously facilitating these events, but also helping add to all these really deep character moments. While some of these scenes do seem a little long and a little slower than what we're used to with the pace of the film at the start, I think there's a lot of great stuff here, a lot of great lines, and Angus Cloud really sells it. He has that genuineness, I guess I would say. You watch Euphoria and that Fez character, you're going to get that almost exact replica here in Your Lucky Day, and that's not a negative. I think Angus Cloud has this likability about him. So then we're kind of dealing with this element of someone you're supposed to dislike because of all these other characters in this situation. You find yourself empathizing with him and wanting him to get out of this situation. Again, I keep going back to Good Time, but I fall into that Robert Pattinson character in Good Time, of where you're supposed to really dislike him, but the charisma and the likability factor really just wants you to see him get out of this situation that he's put himself in. And Angus Cloud has this subtleness to his performance where he's never over the top. His line delivery seems real. It seems so authentic. As a person and as an actor, he just seems like he's got this authentic feel to him. And I think that was such great casting for this because you need that type of character here, especially when you're presenting the situation. Because, you could just end up hating that main character because they put all these other characters at risk. But because Angus Cloud just has this intangible, this charisma, it's hard to put your finger on. I think he really does sell this film and really helps the quality overall. And I think his performance is going to be talked about after this. It really is such a tragedy knowing that we're not going to get anything else from him because this is a highlight of his career, his young career. And going into the overall concept of the film, it really is meant to be this high tension, fast paced sort of film, and it really does live up to that. They do present a lot of interesting situations that you're going to wonder of how are these characters going to make it out. And this is that type of film where it zigs when you think it's going to zag because it's going to leave you wondering what's happening all the way to the credits are rolling. Because when you think you have the answers, they end up changing the questions. It's such an intriguing film. I think this is one that is going to be a big talking point for people. I encourage a lot of people to go out and see it. Same vein of An Uncut Gem's a Good Time, even a Dragged Across Concrete. I think there's a lot of good stuff here. A great performance by Angus Cloud, as well as a lot of the other cast. The directing from Dan Brown is spot on. I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to do next. And I'm so excited to just be able to rewatch this film because I think it is going to have that rewatchability. It's going to bring that same tension. I don't think it's going to fall flat on a second viewing. So this one for me is definitely going to be a recommend. If you see this on VOD or in the theater, it's definitely worth your time. Like I said, it's a breeze to get through. It's about an hour 30, so it's not a huge commitment, and it's going to fly right by with a lot of the situations that you're put in. So definitely recommend checking this one out, but also check out some other stuff we have on the channel. A lot of great stuff coming up. A lot of holiday slashers. We have It's a Wonderful Knife up on the channel, a review there, which was a great film, and a lot of great stuff coming. We are preparing for December to Dismember, so things are going to get very wild on the channel. But until next time, I'm Luke Janesco, and stay scared.